Video from my August 2017 trip to Yellowstone National Park. This video focuses on the animals that I saw at the park, and they were absolutely magnificent. Now, you're going to have to bear with me here a little bit with some of these bear shots. You could barely make out the bears in the low light. I was also hand-holding a very long telephoto lens for a lot of these shots, so it was a little unstable. But in one day, I had 3 separate bear encounters. Oftentimes, the best ways to encounter animals in Yellowstone Park is to simply drive around the sort of figure-8 central loop that they have. And when you come across a very, very large traffic jam, you know that it's likely caused by some sort of animal. There'll be cars pulled off to the side and rubberneckers who are slowing down in order to look and see what critter it is that's just off the side of the road. The rangers and park veterans affectionately refer to these as bear jams or bison jams or elk jams. We had come across a mule deer jam, and as we were taking photos of it, one of the other people said, there's a bear just 2 miles down the road. Have you seen it? We said, why no? So we hopped in. This was probably the most interesting of the bear views that we had. This, we believe, was a grizzly bear that was eating the carcass of a deceased elk. You can tell it's an elk by just how big the antlers are. We had been told that this carcass was in the area the day before, but it was very, very hard to see because it had been tucked up under an embankment. However, a bear later pulled it out more into the open. This bear is really, really far away. It's probably 1,000+ yards, but I'm zoomed in with an 800mm lens, and I have an additional 1.4x teleconverter in order to try to punch in and capture the bear footage. It was really, really neat. I don't think I've seen bears before in the local parks in California, but 3 in one day, and those were the only 3 that we saw. It's my understanding that this was not a bear predation. This, to me, was probably the neatest of the bears that we saw. It was actually the first as we were driving down the road. Saw this one, then the bear feeding on the elk, then the other bear walking down the riverside to get to the elk. This bear was out and swimming in the water. We'd actually just been to this location a couple of hours earlier because there was a bison on the other side of the bank. But it was so neat to get to see a bear swimming around. I had the bare necessities playing in my head as I watched it. These, I believe, are elk. I don't know if the ears are big enough to be mule deer. They, again, were very, very far away, probably 800 to 1,000 yards or more. And so I had to set up my camera with the long lens and a tripod in order to just hopefully get somewhat stable footage. The majority of the animals that we saw, however, were the bison. The bison were everywhere in the Hayden and Lamar Valley. Apparently, it's the time for the bison rut, as the larger animals have to breed earlier in order to have their babies in the spring. All of the animals in the park target having their babies at the same time in the spring when food is more abundant. So depending on the size of the animal, they start their rut earlier to allow for the longer gestation. Bison are the biggest animal in the park. Here we see a male bison that's actually rolling in its own urine in order to basically cover itself in pheromones in an attempt to woo a lady. They would then lick the hindquarters of the female to determine if she was in heat. This was the most beautiful of the bison encounter. And I should be clear, these are bison, not buffalo. The misnaming stems from an error with early settlers who had sort of mistaken them with the large creatures that are in Africa. North America, it's a bison, Africa, it's a buffalo. This one was beautiful in the light. It was just in the golden hour, perfect time of the day.